colonial projects in general also use religious justification and rationalization. Right? And this is in the chapter that I call, it's the biblical theology of dispossession. It's interesting that every colonial project used God to justify the fact they actually dispossess an indigenous population. And the thing is that no one can actually call God. You don't have an iPhone app to actually click and say, God, did you actually authorize somebody to dispossess my land? Every colonial project used religious justification to colonize and dispossess the population. This is what's called manifest destiny that was utilized. And as such, the biblical theology of dispossession reads the religious text as a dispensation for engaging in a colonial project. In Palestine, we see it very clearly so, in a sense of using the biblical text as a document to dispossess the population. And usually when you speak and argue and debate Zionists, once they are unable to actually argue the facts, then they resort to what you call the trump card, not the president, but they say God promised us the land. Once you say that, meaning all debate and discussion is mute, because you cannot, again, use an app to verify whether actually somebody actually gave that promise to authorize dispossession, expulsion, and so on. So the biblical theology of dispossession is an important one. And in here, we also link to the expanding Christian right, Christian coalition, rapture theology, not all Christianity, but those who are in extreme right and rapture theology, where actually part of their theology is there has to be a creation of a state of Israel as a stepping stone for the return of Jesus. And therefore, part of this alliance that takes place between Zionism on the one hand and the extreme Christian right, rapture theologians, it's a shotgun wedding, if you're going to actually say that, but it's taken place because of the distorted notions of how the biblical text is read and what is being thought of in relations to Palestine. So it's preparation for the second coming. This gets us into a broader notion that I quiz a little bit of it, but maybe later on, is the distinction between imperial religion, religion that constructs itself in imperial terms, versus religion that is more of the grassroots, more of liberation for the poor, the dispossessed, and so on. We often correlate religion with power. That God is on my side if I'm powerful, and therefore we assume that God is essentially coming with a tank, an F-16, a missile, because we actually are thinking of imperial religion than religion per se. And I often say that if we take the question of the three prominent figures in the Abrahamic tradition, if Muhammad, Jesus, and Moses were around, will they be salesmen for the military-industrial complex, or will they be protesting and be in the forefront of changing and pressuring to alter the priorities that we have, considering that we are spending $1.4 trillion a year on military expenditures globally. So again, this is the imperial religion and how we construct it versus religion that is a liberation that liberates the individuals and society in general. So that's part of